winning is crazy. Your opportunity, your opportunity, your opportunity.
And they would literally ask, who's doing your marketing? And I would say, well, me. And then they would say, okay, cool. Can you do it for me as well? People have been trusting brands less and less. I've never seen this happen so much as in 2025, which is why I'm a huge advocate for personal branding and personalization in content as well. I boosted that for a day and a half and we started getting leads. Obviously, now the budget needs to increase, but this is a good indicator of where we need to
Yeah.
go and how we need to invest because the leads are warm. Your power today is that nobody is you. That means nobody is your brand. That means nobody is your team. So if your team can write raw and not filtered, that's going to captivate more eyeballs than a polished, filtered text or even image ever will. I want to come to a place where I can tell my clients if I post these 5 things for you, your ROI is going to be 20%. If we do this exact thing tomorrow within the next 6 months.
Hello and welcome to the WeMarketers Podcast. I'm Andrew and my today's guest is Kristina Vukas, Fractional CMO and founder of Plot Twists, a marketing consultancy tailored to 8+ figure revenue businesses. Today we're going to talk about effective content marketing in 2025 and beyond. Kristina, could you share a bit your story and your background?
I started singing, dancing, and acting when I was a child. I was one of those child ballerinas who started singing on top of dancing, and my career evolved. And in my teen years, I got discovered by big producers in Croatia. And basically, from there on, I've already had hit singles in my young adulthood. However, there was no one to market me. Uh, and that was the beauty of it. So I always say this is my second career, but I've been doing it as long as my first career. And I had to market myself. Thankfully, I was just studying on a master's for business communications. And I started doing marketing for myself as an artist, and to the point where other colleagues had started asking me to do the same for them. And they would literally ask, who's doing your marketing? And I would say, well, me. And then they would say, okay, cool. Can you do it for me as well? So it went from celebrity PR and marketing, personal branding to basically software marketing, law, finance, and other types of clients. And yeah, I started freelancing at one point. But then I really had to open an agency because I had so many clients coming back to me. And that's really how my journey started.
No, wow, that's great. That's a great story. And now you have significant experience working with big brands. I would like to start broad. If we are talking about effective content marketing this year and next, right? What is really working and what is kind of overhyped?
Yes, this year I've definitely seen a huge shift in terms of content marketing, and I feel as the world is progressing further, we are going back to our basic settings, and that is the need for connection and trust. So when it comes to content marketing, I've seen that really we need to pull back and personalize, and people have been trusting brands less and less. I've never seen this happen so much as in 2025, which is why I'm a huge advocate for personal branding and personalization in content as well. So I would even throw away the pushing big brands, but I would start um, giving employees the right to start talking about how it is to work in the company, to talk about progress, to talk about products, to really be human, communicate what's really happening within their company and where they're going, as well as the founders and the senior executives, because this is how we're going to rebuild that trust back, and not just see a logo or a brand and then we don't know anything about it or what's happening behind it, behind the scenes. I think that's very important for 2025, and I see this shift happening more and more.
And it's fascinating, right? For example, we have this boost of AI, of technology, And at the same time, we have a splash of interest to human created content, this authenticity part, right? And on the contrary, with people who are consuming this content, our audiences, do you see any shifts in their behavior?
Yeah, so this is where I'm seeing that people connect with people because it's so easy now to put out a post, put out a video, AI generate image that really consumers are starting to pull back and say like, okay, but what am I purchasing? I see the biggest shift in behavior is not even the trust part, but it's also the what am I buying and why? People don't want to buy products or services anymore that are not doing good for the environment, that are not good for the society.
Mhm.
They want to know exactly what they're doing when they purchase. And I think that's a really pivotal shift in marketing. It's been happening for a while, but with technology just being so rapidly evolving in the world, I think people are actually scaling back more. So the key is to show what's happening within your company, what how your product affects them, the market, the community. And if I can just add, maybe not do it in a way that's, for example, we have green labeling that's been happening for years, but also consumers are onto it when the companies are just putting the green label just to increase ROI. So I would say try to be really go back to the basic settings and try to be as transparent as possible with these things.
If we look at the channels, do you see any changes here over the course of the last couple of years? What channels really work better?
The biggest change is not so much which channels work, it's what channels works for who and why.
Mhm.
And what's happening really right now is that before we used to have one channel that works really well. Let's say you have a Google Ads plus LinkedIn. That's amazing. That works really well, but that doesn't work anymore. So today you have to really utilize all your channels. So cross posting is very important to see ROI, engagement and visibility, to see brand connection. And then on top of that, I would say content marketing first, performance marketing underneath that.
Mhm.
And that's, I think, the biggest shift because before you could just place an ad and that would be okay, or you can post on one platform and that would also be okay. But now you really need a whole marketing mix to fill in those customer journey touch points because
Mhm.
everyone is in a different part of the journey. So you really want to captivate your audience.
Recently, you wrote about interesting approach when for paid advertising you used high converting content that is already driving leads. I find it really valuable practice and definitely want to implement this. Could you share more about it?
Yeah, so I can share this approach, but I can also share my whole strategy of 14 years that I've
Yeah. That would be
um,
great.
So what I've always been doing is basically there's a strategy that I use and I call it like the deep listening.
Mm,
Um, so I always go back to our top performing posts, our top performing newsletters, blogs. It doesn't matter any type of content that was top performing because that tells us A, what our target audience wants, and B, it says that we have communicated in a way that they want it. And when I say top performing, I don't mean viral because viral doesn't necessarily mean the content piece was a success in business
mhm,
metrics. I mean your target audience really communicating with a piece of content that you have put out there. So if you gather all these things and then you see, okay, what how did we communicate this? What was the time? What did we say that was really important to them? And I use all of this to create a more content. And then instead of pushing out cold ads, I use this content and I boost it to the target audience and lookalike audience to attract them back in or to get more eyeballs on the product. And with the example that I wrote about last week was we put thousands of euros into Google Ads within 2 weeks,
mhm,
and all of a sudden we were outbid on the market. And my client came and said, "Hey, this is something's off because all of a sudden nothing's happening."
mhm,
And I was really annoyed by this. And then I was like, "Okay, we need to do something creative." and I put 36 euros into a boosted post. And I just targeted it to our audience, and we were getting leads the same day. And I went
That's
back and I said, okay, which content did perform the best? Like, I just want to see what they interacted with, what was really
mhm,
good for them. I boosted that for a day and a half, and
mhm,
we started getting leads. Obviously, now the budget needs to increase, but this is a good indicator of where we need to
yeah.
go and how we need to invest, because the leads are warm. The people have already interacted. They know what we're about.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And if you start working on a new content strategy, what's your approach? Could you unveil best directions where to put efforts? Because it's always kind of trade-off. We have limited resources, where to start, what to do, and so on.
So, first of all, I go back and I do client research. With
Mm,
my clients, I will literally go to their stores, I will go to their offices, and I'll talk to clients. I'll
mhm,
literally, hey, so do a little bit of client research and see why are they still here? How long? What do they like? What do they feel are areas for improvement? Take this all back, see all the answers that start repeating themselves, and this is where your content begins. Now, it's not enough to only understand them. You also have to communicate in the way that they communicate. So that's point number two.
mhm,
And this part is going to take some testing. However, if you're in a testing period, I would say take 30 days, post as frequently as you can, see what resonated the best, take back your data, the things that resonated the best, but also they have to be tied to your ROI, and they also have to be tied to your core business and your core revenue streams. If
mhm,
these three things correlate, start posting again those best performing posts. And this is your indicator of how to write, how to create, and how to communicate. Obviously, this is a very short
mhm.
explanation,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but I think it helps when you don't know where to start.
In my practice, I can see two types of content marketing. So the first one is more like consistent one, where we work on a daily basis, like publishing posts, creating posts for social media, and so on. So this is something that we do on a constant basis. Also, there are types of campaigns that are, I call them big ones, and so we create one big piece, put a lot of efforts there. For example, in our company, what we do once a year, we ask 30 recruitment leaders to share how they view the upcoming year, and we create big report on recruitment trends. But at the same time, with limited resources, it's always a trade-off to do this work with content consistently, or to put efforts in these winning campaigns. From your experience, how to deal with this?
Yeah, I think slice a piece of content so you can have more balance within both. And what I mean by this is it's okay to post a few times a week and have
Mhm,
good hitting content a few times a week. And with newsletter, obviously less, but now I'm talking about the social media platforms.
mhm,
And then, so you find the ones that are high performing, you do this a few times a week, and then you can put that into the time, the effort, the resources that you use, and then you can put that in the big hero campaigns. But also, I would say go back to the data and see what brought you the most. In my experience, the stuff that brought you the most is probably a combination of the two. Because, in marketing, it's always good to have multiple streams that work well for you. Um, but double down on the things that really worked and pull back. I would even, pull the brakes on the things that didn't and invest into the hero in that case.
When we are working with the content, right? I think everyone are using AI tools.
Yeah.
How to balance this usage of AI and human-centric approach?
That's a great question. I'm really happy that you're asking this, because if you probably you as well, if you open your LinkedIn, it's all about don't use
Yeah,
ChatGPT.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so we need AI, and I think we should definitely use it, but we use it as our assistant, right? Your power today is that nobody is you. that means nobody's your brand. That means nobody's your team. So if your team can write raw and not filtered,
Mm.
um, that's going to captivate more eyeballs than a polished, filtered text or even image ever will. Um, Example, I was preparing for this podcast today and I asked
Mhm.
my partner, I have PJs underneath pants, and I asked my partner to take a picture because this is real
Mm.
life. So we don't always need to be polished or perfect, or we
Mhm.
need to
Mhm.
have these moments where we're just part of the journey. So that's, I would say, the first. So when you create a piece of content, start by you are the creator. Also, AI doesn't have your data. I cannot go as deep, unfortunately. So start as the creator and then give it to AI to say, hey, can you, is this clearly readable or watchable? And would you have any suggestions? Or, I'm just missing this one word that I'm trying to say, this important piece of information. So have it to fill in the blanks, the gaps, give you help with structure, maybe even give you feedback on readability. But don't start with, oh, hey, can you please write me a newsletter? Or can you please write me a post?
Mhm.
Everyone in the world is doing that right now. So your
Mhm.
differentiation is zero. You shouldn't even put the resources in doing things like this because the effect is going to be so low that it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I fully agree. Because when you work with AI on a daily basis, you understand which posts were generated by AI, right? The
Yeah.
same words, the same patterns.
And
Agree.
even the images are becoming very perfect. And this is something that we've had obviously before. I wrote about this a year ago when I saw that AI was generating perfect people.
Mm.
And we fought so hard in the world to have campaigns where we have real people, when it comes to Dove, for example, body image, or even lingerie. And this is a big thing for women as well. And then we have AI that's creating again perfect images. So we just pulled back again. And I was like, oh my God. So I think if you are brave enough to be human in today's world, you're already winning.
Yeah, and not perfect, right? To,
Yeah.
to to have this courage to show up and not in a perfect way. You mentioned content created by teams. When you're saying teams, what do you mean? Do you mean marketing teams or teams of the company? I mean, if a company is engineering, we can ask, for example, our employees to help create content.
Yeah, definitely.
When I joined my company, we didn't have any content writers and so on. And the idea was to encourage our team, recruiters, to create articles for our blog. I started asking people to do this. Now our blog is mostly written by our employees. And now it's kind of matter of culture where it's normal in our company to do this. From your experience, how to really encourage people who work within teams to do this?
First of all, I think you did a really good job because you did a hard thing. You involved the other teams in marketing process, which is it's always difficult, right? Because everyone's like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't have time for this.
yeah.
And before I continue, what was the data on the content? I'm so curious.
So I would say that around 60% of organic traffic that we receive to our blog was written by our employees, and the best posts they are really written by our employees because they are experts in their field.
Wow, that's so amazing. And do you guys focus on SEO or do they just write from their expertise point of view?
Yeah. So I of course I try to navigate them in the direction of SEO because it's pretty obvious that it's better to do this than not to do this. But I'm not pushing hard on this. I give space for people to really write what they want to share and what will be really useful for the audience.
Wow, that's amazing. Congratulations. That's not easy. So how we did this within
Mm.
companies, it's basically I always go into the sales team because they know a lot. So then I always
Mhm,
ask them
mhm,
for
mhm,
about that.
mhm.
And then it really depends who works there and how comfortable they feel with writing. Um, they can either write it for the marketing team
Mhm.
and then we give it a little bit of structure and post. Or if they like to write, then they can also, they can write their own stuff and we'll publish it right away, which is probably nicer, but not everyone feels okay doing that. And then I think it's on the founders or on the leadership to really explain that this is the way of working. This is not,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the mindset. So it's not something that, oh, now I have to do on top of my work. It's actually a part of your day to day job, especially if you have teams such as product, which is always very important. Account managers that understand the clients and
Mm-hmm.
it's very important to get feedback from the people that are actually out there in the market. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you just
Yeah,
you just have to explain that it's a new way of working.
yeah, it's a great point. It's a great point about collaborating with other teams. And especially you mentioned sales teams, and I'm curious, when you start projects with your clients and to help them with their marketing strategy, how do you collaborate with sales?
That's actually my first point. And that's my first touch point because I'm always curious what's happening in the sales department, what they think their challenges are, what the feedback is. The market feedback and the customer feedback is gold. Um, and like I said, what they're happy with, because I want to always double down on what they're happy with and then take away their pain points. And sometimes the pain points are really just a seamless sales cycle or you
Mm-hmm.
know the lasting of the product, or they don't really understand the results. So you always see that these concerns, they are kind of repetitive at the end of the day. And that's where I start with challenges first, and then you take that into marketing basically and create by that, or like I said, directly speak to customers.
I know that you have experience working with different kinds of companies of different scale, right? From small to really big enterprises. What is the main difference you see in content marketing strategies for smaller companies and large enterprises? What to consider here?
That's a great question. I think in some instances, smaller even have this advantage because they can speak directly to a consumer. You put out one good piece of content and it can hit, and you just use that for the next 6 months. You
Mm-hmm.
gain revenue. But then obviously when you work with bigger enterprises, I personally can be more creative. I can have more fun. You have more budgets to test. The data is
Mm-hmm.
more precise. So the differences are huge. When I work with enterprises and I've managed budgets over €1 million for global A players, um, it's interesting to see because then you're a part of the puzzle putting things together. But then when you're working with smaller companies, you are the team. And, I'm hiring for this department, I'm building this department. So it's a completely different ballgame, actually. They're playing on different levels. But that's also a good thing because they can, with that, they can attract different types of customers. Everyone can really go out and focus on their niche.
And when it comes to measurement of the content efforts, which metrics do you find really valuable, and what should we as a marketers track first of all?
This is my favorite question.
I knew that. I knew that.
So I think actually been advocating about this on LinkedIn, but can we all throw away impressions first? I'd love to. I feel like this is something that we've been using as marketers to, show our clients how we can achieve big numbers. But at the end of the
Mhm,
day, I don't see it. I don't see it working. Um, so what I like to measure is obviously the conversion rate, but the conversion rate also grows or decreases um, in correlation to warm leads. So that's how well we've done a job with connecting.
mhm,
Have we shortened the sales cycle? Is the CAC lower or higher?
mhm,
Um, and then also, how much budget do we need to invest overall? Did we get good data from the testing?
mhm,
And also, how can I predict if I've done a few campaigns? How can I predict the next campaign? Is it easier for me to predict the likelihood of purchasing within the next campaign, or do I still need to test? I think these are really metrics for success.
It's always a problem for internal marketing teams, and I think for agencies it will be the same, like problem to justify the budget, right? We need to have some budget for some activities.
Mhm.
Then we calculate the estimated ROI and explain that if you invest A, you will receive B. But it's a huge problem of communication to deliver this to stakeholders. How do you justify budgets?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I actually spoke about this yesterday, saying that we need more predictability.
Mhm,
So what I try to do is I estimate based on the results we've already had in a similar industry. So, for example, our last campaign in pharma, the conversion rate was 4 to 6 times higher than their normal conversion rate.
mhm,
And this was a old client of mine, and they did the same campaign in 4 countries. And the campaigns that they did with us had repetitively the highest numbers. So
mm,
I can use this to predict outcomes of similar campaigns. So
mhm,
that's the first thing. And then if you can go back to your client and say, or even internally and say, hey, with this campaign, we've had 50% ROI. That's great.
mhm,
But I think it's also very important to sometimes communicate that the ROI is not going to come right away.
mhm,
Um, sometimes with branding and marketing activities, you're not going to see results within a week or two. Sometimes you're going to see it within 6 months because there was an always on campaign or something was happening. There were marketing activations, and your customer needs to see something between 6 to 24 times to actually purchase.
mhm.
So then,
And
uh,
what you do
I was
in this case?
yeah. So in this case, I'm working on developing a software that's going to help with predictions.
Mm,
So when a customer comes to our page and they spend 2 minutes on a website,
mm,
then I'm working with this pixel to say, okay, this customer has 40% of chance to purchase next time. Or if
mm,
someone spends time less, then we know that, okay, this person's probably, they landed, they're not interesting, they left. So I'm actually working on this right now to gather all the data from all the campaigns and say, um, the prediction is that the ROI could be X percentage,
mm.
because otherwise it's really hard. So it's actually a data problem. It's not a budget problem. It's a data problem.
Talking about the future, so looking ahead, what we as marketers should prepare for in the next year or two?
Yeah, I think content is going to definitely take over in a different way than it has been so far. Meaning we're going to have precise data on what it does. We're going to start planting content, not just to post or for visibility. We're going to start planting content to get more trust, to get more leads, to be as transparent as possible as a business so people or consumers can think they have this feeling that they know us, and then it's so much easier to become a customer. I think predictability models are very important uh, as we move further, and the data needs to be more precise, and we need to be able to predict outcomes of campaigns. Um, what else? I think AI is going to also help us with this. So I think the not next year, but the future of marketing will be to orchestrate many streams at once
Mhm,
and to become really good at market research. I don't think there's an AI tool right now that can replace us when it comes to market research and really
mhm,
placing strategies based on our market research. So I think we're still going to have to do that, but we're going to have to orchestrate many AI tools and many streams at once and monitor that they all work seamlessly. And yeah, in terms of data, I think it's going to be, sorry, in terms of content, I think it's going to be a different world because the content agencies are not going to be people who, just create this and then sell it. It's going to be a complete in-depth strategy and distribution model for clients.
And what about toolkit that you use in content creation? You write a lot about it, about testing different tools. I know that you're doing this on a constant basis. Maybe some suggestions from you.
Actually, wanted to suggest to your listeners maybe Dripify is a good one because you're all B2B.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say in terms of writing, I get a little bit of help from Score.io and Claude. So these two are my favorite. And when I need to think, it's just ChatGPT. I love Cider AI as my assistant. It really saves so much time. I have a newsletter. I work with Beehive for my newsletter. What else? Perplexity and Consensus AI. I really love them. It's so good to just get like so much good and precise either information or data or research. I think I would say these are my favorites so far. There are a lot of social media tools out there like Blaze and Bookable, and HeyGen actually creates images of people.
And and videos, right?
And
So you can record the sample video. I played around it and even had an idea to record short videos for YouTube just for SEO, SEO keywords to drive more traffic. But I'm still not there.
I think the tools are still not there because if we go back to the point, if I generate a video or image of myself, the videos are, I don't feel like it's me yet, but also the images are so perfect. And then I don't want to disappoint someone when I meet them in real life. Um, so I think it's a fun notion that this is going to be the future, but I don't think we're there yet. But yeah, it does help some social media marketers for sure, or people who don't want to put their face in front of a camera to explain what they do. So then they can definitely use HeyGen because they have avatar models there.
Kristina, what excites you most about the future of content marketing?
Oh, what a good question. I want to come to a place where I can tell my clients if I post these 5 things for you, your ROI is going to be 20%. If we do this exact thing tomorrow within the next 6 months. So I am actually trying to plant my business almost as a hedge fund, was saying, this is what your ROI is going to be, and this is where you will be within the next 6 months to a year. So that's what I'm working on right now.
Great. I love your data-driven approach. Kristina, thanks a lot for sharing your insights. What is the best way for our listeners to connect with you?
I would say LinkedIn first. I just opened X Twitter, so please follow me there. And Instagram, of course. All three are under Kristina Vukas. I have a newsletter called Entrepreneurial Echoes, which I'm a little bit flaky with, but I'll pick it up again. So these four platforms are really good to reach out, connect. If you guys have any questions, happy to respond. And yeah, this was really, really fun. And thank you for having me today.
Thank you. Thank you for joining. I will add all the links in the description, and bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for having me.
Winning is crazy. Your opportunity. Your opportunity.